Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Selamun alaikum ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuh. Inshallah, we will continue with the 24th word, third branch, and this is the 10th principle. The third branch is about how to read the narrations from Prophet, our beloved Prophet. And so far we studied 9th principle. We also started 10th principle. We finished 9th principle, we started with the 10th principle, and as far as I remember, we studied the first paragraph. And then inshallah, we will continue with the second paragraph, which starts with, here, in order to encourage and restrain, it points out the possibility of that indefinite perfect individual being present everywhere.
Okay, here, in order to encourage and restrain, it points out to the possibility of that indefinite perfect individual being present everywhere in absolute form, as though it is actually the case, thus arousing eagerness for good and disgust for evil. Furthermore, the things of the eternal world cannot be measured on the scale of this world. The greatest thing here is not equal to the least thing there. Because the merits of actions look to that world, our worldly view is narrow for them. We cannot fit them into our minds. For example, whoever reads this is given the reward of Moses and Aaron. That is to say, all praise be to God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth, sustainer of all the worlds. His is the might in the heavens and the earth, and he is the mighty, the wise. All praise be to God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earths, sustainer of all the worlds, and his is the sublimity in the heavens and the earth, and he is the mighty, the wise. And his is the dominion, sustainer of the heavens, and he is the mighty, the wise. What has most attracted the attention of the unfair and the unthinking is narrations like these. The reality of the matter is this. With our narrow mind and short views in this world, we know how much we imagine the rewards of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, to be. The reward the absolutely compassionate one will give to one of his infinitely needy servants in the world of eternity and everlasting happiness, in return for a single invocation, may be equal to the reward of those two, but equal to the rewards as we conceive of them and surmise them to be. For example, there is a primitive, uncouth man who has never seen the king and does not know the majesty of his rule. He imagines a lord in a village, and with his limited ideas, thinks of the king as a more exalted version of the Lord. Long ago, with us even, there was a simple-minded tribe who used to say, "Our Lord knows what the Sultan does as he cooks his bulgur soup on his stove in a saucepan." That is to say, they imagined the Sultan in such a narrow situation and so common a form that he cooked his own wheat soup. They supposed him to have the majesty of a captain. Now, if someone was to say to one of that tribe, "If you do this work for me today, I'll give you as much majesty as you think the Sultan has, and give you a rank as high as a captain," to say that is right. To say that is right, because of the majesty of kingship. What enters the narrow bounds of his ideas is only the majesty of a captain. Thus, with our worldly views and narrow minds, we cannot think as much as that primitive man of the true rewards which look to the hereafter. It is not the equivalent of the true rewards of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them. For according to the rule of similes and comparisons, the unknown is compared to the known. The true reward, which is unknown, for an invocation of one of God's believing servants, is compared with the rewards that we know and surmise. Moreover, the surface of the sea and the heart of a droplet are equal when it comes to holding the complete reflection of the sun. The difference is only in quality. The nature of the reward reflected in the mirrors of the ocean-like spirits of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, is exactly the same in nature as the reward that a believing servant who is like a droplet receives from a Quranic verse. They are the same in nature and quantity, while their quality is dependent on capacity. Should I continue?
I think we can finish till the 11th principle. Might as well.
Okay. Also, it sometimes happens that a single word, a single glorification, opens a treasury of happiness that was not opened with 60 years of service. That is to say, it sometimes happens that a single verse may be as beneficial as the Quran. Also, the divine effulgence which God's noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, who manifested the greatest name, received from a single verse, may have been as much as all the effulgence one of the other prophets received. And it would not be contrary to the truth if it is said that a believer who through the legacy of prophethood manifests the shadow of the greatest name, receives in accordance with his own capacity and in regard to quantity, a reward as great as a prophet's effulgence. Furthermore, reward and merit are from the world of light, and one world from that world may be contained in a speck. Just as the heavens and all its stars may appear in a tiny fragment of glass, so luminous reward and merit like the heavens may be situated in an invocation or verse which acquires transparency through pure intention. Conclusion. O unfair, unthinking, self-centered, cavilling man whose belief is weak and philosophy strong, consider these 10 principles, then do not make the pretext a narration you thought was contrary to the truth and definitely opposed to reality, and point the finger of objection at hadith, thus casting aspersions on the noble messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sinlessness. Because, firstly, these 10 principles and what they entail will make you forego denial. They say, if there is any real fault, it is ours. It may not be referred to the hadith. They say, too, if the fault is not real, it springs from your misunderstanding. In short, if one embarks on denial and rejection, one first has to deny these 10 principles and show them to be false. Now, if you are fair, after pondering over these 10 principles with due attention, do not attempt to deny a hadith your reason considers contrary to the truth. Say, there is either an explanation or interpretation or an exegesis of this, and do not criticize it.
This ending makes me wonder if he's going to now change the topic in the next 2 principles, since he's kind of giving like a conclusion of the last 10 principles. So we finished the 10th principle. It's again an interesting one. I like it because, you know, it seems logical to me. It makes sense to me, most of it, and that's generally a good thing. And I can follow the logic. So inshallah, let's start from the beginning again, though, where we started. So it says here, in order to encourage and restrain, it points out the possibility of that indefinite, perfect individual being present everywhere in absolute form, as though it is actually the case, thus arousing eagerness for good and disgust for evil. So we're still talking, I think, about a good word is a deed so good it is like freeing a slave. This is the last sentence of the previous paragraph. And he says, in order to encourage and restrain, it points out the possibility, again, the potential that there is this undefined, perfect individual, like just a generally, like someone arbitrary, like in the terms that it could be, you know, anyone that fits this concept or these attributes of being a perfect individual. This individual can be present everywhere. And as if like this individual like existed, as if like, let's say, everyone was this individual, then this sentence comes about, or this hadith comes about, where just like to arouse good and disgust for evil, he says, and then you say, you know, a good word is a deed so good it is like freeing a slave. Like as if everyone fits that perfect individual state, so their good word would be as good as freeing a slave, is what Nursi is saying. Furthermore, the things of the eternal world cannot be measured on the scale of this world. The greatest thing here is not equal to the least thing there, because the merits of actions look to that world. Our worldly view is narrow for them. We cannot fit them into our minds. For example, whoever reads this is given the reward of Moses and Aaron. That is to say, and then he goes into a dua that they say whoever reads this is given the reward of Moses and Aaron. So this is an interesting argument. And then he continued, well, the argument here is what we imagine in this world, it cannot be met, like it's not even the least thing that is there. The best thing we can imagine here. Basically he's saying that we cannot imagine. What does it refer to in that sentence? Which sentence are you speaking of?
The first one, when you said here, in order to encourage and restrain, it points out that it.
Okay, I believe he's speaking about the last sentence of the previous paragraph where it says, and for example, a good word is a deed so good it is like freeing a slave. He's speaking about that hadith. Here, and then he's making an explanation about this hadith, how, well, actually, before, let's say we even dive into the topic, it's just interesting, like, the methodology that Nursi is following about explaining these hadith. Actually, the last paragraph of this 10th principle, the conclusion, where he was saying, you know, so after reading these 10 principles, then you need to make sure that you forego denial. It'd say that if there's any, like, he says that if you see any real fault in these hadiths, then you need to say it's first ours, it's not the problem of the hadith. And then your next step is, if the fault is not real, it springs from your misunderstanding. So like, he's like, Nursi is giving us like a very, let's say, reasonable way, or like something that, a satisfying way to be able to understand the hadiths. Like for example, we're talking about here, how does a good word, a good word is a deed so good is like freeing a slave. And apparently, we're like, you know, we might have a question, how does this make sense? We might be like, it's just a word. Freeing a slave is such a great thing. This is just a word. How does this sentence make sense? Or how does such a statement make sense? Like, we might have such a question. And maybe because of this question, we might be like, no, this is a false hadith. Maybe this is like a weak hadith. You know, it just doesn't make sense. We might have such a reaction to this hadith. And Nursi is like, the approach he has to this, explaining it. I mean, I might even say, you know, it's okay. Because like, the deed, first, like my first step I'd say is like the reward for this deed, you know, taking the sense of like a hereafter, the reward, why are you even questioning the reward of it? If the reward is so great, then let it be great. Like, why are you saying, oh, it doesn't make sense that one word can have such a big reward for it? I would say just let it be, but, or like if that we were talking about a hereafter sense, if we're talking about a here and now sense where I need to also witness and confirm that things are true now, I would say that yes, you probably would need to confirm that somehow a good word can have such a great effect and impact as like freeing a slave. It could be that you know, someone's one word can be so beneficial for you in your life. It could be so helpful for you. With that kind of approach, then I would say that you probably do have to question it and try to see what it means and how you can actually confirm this in your life at the moment. So maybe I am asking this question because I do want to be able to confirm these. I do want to be able to see how these are relevant in my daily life. Like, how does a good word be equivalent to like freeing a slave from me? I want to be able to witness this. And Nursi is saying that this is a true statement because you know, this world is narrow in its thoughts compared to the, I think he approaching more from the hereafter aspect rather than confirming it now, unless someone else will like to intercede and say otherwise. But he's talking about how because the merits of actions look to that world, our worldly view is narrow for them. We cannot fit them into our minds. Again, he's saying like the scale of this world compared to the hereafter, like the scale of the hereafter is so great that the greatest thing I can imagine here can't even be the least thing there. And I guess he's trying to say from this, actually this is, now that I'm reading this, it is confusing me, what he is trying to say. But I guess let's continue on. After the dua, he says, what has the most attracted what has most attracted the attention of the unfair and the unthinking is narrations like these. The reality of the matter is this: with our narrow mind and short views in this world, we know how much we imagine the rewards of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, to be. The reward the absolutely compassionate one will give to one of his infinitely needy servants in the world of eternity and everlasting happiness in return for a single invocation may be equal to the reward of those two, but equal to the rewards as he conceived of them and surmised them to be. So I understand this paragraph where he's talking about how, in my mind, so let's say I'm questioning how this can be true. How can such a statement be true? Let's say it doesn't make sense for me, and Nursi's saying, Nursi's saying, first of all, in the first, the first argument is, the view of this world is narrow, anyways, as compared to the hereafter. So the best thing in this world is still the least thing there. So you can't even imagine how great a good word could be compared in the hereafter. Because in the hereafter, everything is much greater. Like, let's say everything is eternal. Everything becomes much more full of light, much better. So he's saying that a good word could end up being as good as freeing a slave, because that's just a comparison from this world to the hereafter. And then the other argument is also because in my mind, like the reward of, let's say, and then he goes on to the second example of how reading the Stoa that we didn't read, but Atik read, how reading the Stoa can give you the reward of Moses and Aaron. He's saying that in my mind, or in your mind, or anyone's mind, everyone has this idea of the greatness of Moses and Aaron. Like, everyone in their own scale, Moses and Aaron are great, different, like respective to that person, like that person's own scale. And if I am a person, let's say, who hasn't developed really my, let's say, my qualities and my intellect and my understanding of who Moses and Aaron are and what life is and what existence is, my conception of Moses and Aaron won't be so great either. So it would be true to say that you reading this passage, this dua, would give you the reward of Moses and Aaron, because you're not going to get a tremendous reward maybe, or tremendous benefit from this reading this passage, but it's enough, like, because in your mind Moses and Aaron weren't at such a grand scale anyways, it's possible that you're going to reach the level of Moses and Aaron that you had in your mind. I think I made it more complicated than it had to be, but if anyone else would like to explain it, please. Yes, go ahead.
It's a technical thing. I wouldn't say it's deliberately thinking low of Moses and Aaron or the reward they received from God, but just we don't know the true extent, or it's not really possible even for us to know the true extent of rewards that they received. So through our ignorance, we perceive their rewards to be less, rather than, just a deliberate, we think less of them as people.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was probably a better way of putting it. It's that the reward we expect them to get, the reward they in reality got, like we're talking about these prophets, is much greater than the reward that we expect them to get because of our limited understanding, or just maybe the limited comprehension we have, or how we haven't developed our understanding of Moses and Aaron. So essentially, I think what Nursi is saying is that this statement is not unreasonable, even if you would question it and think it doesn't make sense. There seems to be an imbalance from why would you get such a great reward as Moses and Aaron just for reading a passage like this? But then he says, yeah, it actually makes sense. He's giving very reasonable arguments that people that are approaching this from, let's say, a skeptical perspective and trying to question about it, and he's giving arguments layer by layer on why it should make sense to you, and why you should, if you don't believe in these statements or these hadiths, first you need to question yourself. First you need to say that the fault is in us, as he says in the conclusion. First the fault is in us, or it's in our misunderstanding. He gives good explanations like this. Alhamdulillah. If anyone would like to make a more general comment, I will keep reading unless I'll take a second. Yes, Brother Yusuf, go ahead.
Just ask a question. When he says, in general, we might have discussed this last week, but what does it mean that what's it? Merits of good deeds. What does it mean? And what does it mean that it looks to the hereafter? Because it looks like we might have some, depending on what we understand from that, the rest is going to have a certain meaning. But still, it's very unclear to me what I should understand from merits of good deeds. Is it merit? I'm trying to find the word, but I might be merits of actions. Okay, I am reading.
Is this the sentence you're speaking about?
Yes. So because merits of actions look to that word. So what is it that merits of actions? Like in the original language, it was sawab, like rewards of good deeds. So for what sort of a reward, for example, do I expect when I read this supplication of Moses and Aaron, or what sort of a reward shall I look for when I free a slave or say a good word? What does it mean to receive a reward when I do such actions? Because it must be that I have some sort of a notion of a reward when I say a good word versus when I free a slave. And when the Prophet comes and says that a good word is a deed so good it is like freeing a slave, and then I would say, well, it doesn't make sense. Come on. I mean, reward of the two cannot be the same. In order to have such an objection, I should have an understanding of a reward which doesn't fit here. And then the author would say that things of the eternal world cannot be measured on the scale of this world. Then this objection would make sense. So implying that I have a measure of reward for good deed, which is worldly. But what is it? When I say a reward, what do I understand when it becomes worldly, when it becomes otherworldly? What does it mean? If anybody has anything to say about this.
Yeah, I remember. So please think your comments about this question Brother Yusuf asked about what is the reward of a good deed, or what is this merit that we're talking about. And I remember last week we talked about, we actually touched on this word of merit as well in the sentence where he said, for each of the all-wise Quran's letters is a merit. Each is a good deed. Out of divine grace, the merits of those letters sprout and yield sometimes 10, sometimes 70, and sometimes 700 merits, like the letters of Ayatul Kursi. So this idea of what a merit is, I think that is a good point, that if we are able to solve this, like, other things will start falling into place as well. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to think as I think as well. Brother Say, go ahead. I would say.
Assalamu alaikum. I joined a little bit late, and if I am gonna be repetitive of the things that I'm gonna say, sorry for that. I think what I am feeling from these writings is that when this world is limited to this world, in my experience, that or if I am not able to go beyond this existence and taste some kind of unlimitedness and taste some kind of infinity within my experience, within my conversation. Word, you know, I'm using the word as conversation in the hadith. Then my experience, my existence, my humanity feels basically not satisfied, not purposeful. So the message of the maker of this universe to me has to implement has to open a way for me to make this connection or reach to that taste of infinity and boundless a boundless source of existence. I think the merit merit of the speech of the creator for me has to be related to this taste or this experience. So, and I think, you know, the emphasis all the last week also, I got this emphasis in my world that it is emphasizing that it is very important to have a purpose of reaching to that taste of infinity. And if that is not, if I'm not looking for it, then definitely the comparisons or the narrations don't mean anything to me, or it becomes meaningless and meaningless utterings. That's all at this moment I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Brother Muhammad Said. That was helpful for me. From what you said, and I guess we're still talking about this question of merit. What does it mean? Like, because the merits of actions look to that world, our worldly view is narrow for them. What does this thing of merit mean? And from what you said, what I understand was what the merit that I'm looking for, that I want. You're saying that it needs to be related to this idea that I need my creator, or I need this eternality. I need something eternal to satisfy me. That is, I want to taste infinity, something beyond this world. And Nursi's sentence here of saying the merits of actions look to that world, our worldly view is narrow for them. What this makes me, like what this brings to my mind is that maybe we have a tendency to measure things in this world based on the quantity. Like, how much money did someone give? That's how good it is. Or how many good words do you say to this person? You know, then the amount of reward you get is very directly proportional to what you said. You know, we think that, you know, causes, it's almost like a causality type of thing, like causes for rewards. Like, instead of thinking like causes in nature, this is like causes for reward. 4 rakats of prayer equals this much reward. It's like a very like linear scale, or like, you know, you multiply by 10, it's set. That's just how it is. It never changes. Or I don't know, you fast 30 days in Ramadan, you times it by 10, it's like 300 days. We have this scale that it needs to be like almost causal relationship of action to reward. But what we're saying, actually, like the truth or the reality of reward, like, you know, we're looking for this reward of the hereafter. The hereafter cannot almost be quantified. Like, the hereafter is something that is, let's say, unlimited. It is eternal. It is not of this world, or it is, let's say, you know, I know we're not constricting hereafter to mean meaning, but like it is something beyond like just the physical existence of it, like beyond the physical matter of it. So with this idea, you know, one word or one night or one word of the Quran, one letter of the Quran, you know, it's not about how many letters you read or how many nights you pray or how many days you fast. It's about something more within it, which then leads to the reward. It's not a causal relationship of action to reward. So again, I'm just talking till someone else hopefully raises their hand, inshallah. But the idea from what you said that I'm getting here is that we have this tendency to measure merits and rewards based on also quantity that we see in this life. But whereas rewards don't look to just like the quantity of the things that we're doing, rather it's more about, let's say, the quality and the consciousness and the meaning that we're able to have within it. And that is what matters. Or at least the quantity is just a small aspect of it. And the reward depends on much more than that. And plus, it also depends on, I would say, just what the creator creates for you, which is something that is absolute for you that you can't even comprehend. So you shouldn't maybe even expect to be able to like limit it anyways, because it's something beyond your capacity. Yes, Brother Rikan. Thank you for jumping in. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Regarding this reward, sevab, so if you don't mind, I like to read some text at the very end before the conclusion. So if you don't object, I will take it as yes, you can.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. It says, sorry, moreover, the surface of the sea and the heart of a droplet are equal when it comes to holding the complete reflection of the sun. The difference is only in quality. The nature of the reward reflected in the mirrors of the ocean-like spirits of Moses and Aaron. So, nature of the reward, nature of the sevab, reflected in the mirrors of the ocean-like spirits of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, is exactly the same in the nature of the reward. That a believing servant who is like a droplet receives from a Quranic verse. They are the same in nature and quantity, while their quality is dependent on capacity. Also, it sometimes happens that a single word, a single glorification, opens a treasury of happiness that was not opened with 60 years of service. That is to say, it sometimes happens that a single verse may be as beneficial as the Quran. As beneficial as the Quran. And then I'm skipping a few sentences. Furthermore, reward and merit are from the world of light. In original Nurani, word of light. And one word from that word, one alam from this alam of light, may be contained in a speck, just as the heavens and all its stars may appear in a tiny fragment of glass, so luminous reward and merit, like the heavens, may be situated, so luminous reward and merit, like the heavens, may be situated in an invocation or verse which requires transparency through pure intention. So why I read this here, at least to me, it seems like author is talking about a specific aspect of reward or sevab. We can probably think it in different contexts, in different ways. But here, author talks about or merit as something that enters or reflected in your spirit or in you. That's something that you benefit. That's something transfers you or transforms you. That's something that you enjoy. That's something you feel. This is sevab according to author. So you read a verse from Quran and you benefit from it. You reflect upon something and the reward is reflected in your spirit. So these are the phrases that author uses. So I guess he's talking about reward as something that you receive through your invocations, through your recitations, through your readings, through your understandings, that you receive, that you experience, that you feel, which takes you from one state to another state. So it's not something hidden from you, written somewhere, but you don't know what it is, or it's something counted, just like numbers. No, it's something that is reflected in your spirit. that benefits you, that transforms you. So I just wanted to highlight these aspects. So I was just highlighting some phrases that author used here. So from these, within this scope, within this context, again, like sawab or reward may mean many different things in different contexts, without neglecting or without, refusing their other meanings, other levels of understanding. Here, as if the author says, if you benefit from something, it's something opens up a new door in front of you, or opens a treasury of happiness, with his words, for you, then there is a sawab, there's a reward in it for you. So you read a single word from Quran, or a single glorification of God, you say Subhanallah, you say Alhamdulillah. And this single glorification may open up a treasure for you, which would mean that there's a big sawab, big reward in it for you. So at the end, for instance, when he talks about how the reward and merit are from the word of light. So what I understand from here, it says, to the extent you become transparent. We discussed this in the second branch, right? The direct access to sun is through becoming transparent, saying that it's not me trying to reach the truth. It's not me trying to understand something. I cannot understand. I cannot reach the truth. I cannot make up stories. I cannot, interpret things. But I need this. I need them. I need interpretations. I need understanding. So I'm asking for it. Being transparent, being poor, being weak, not attributing anything to you. Don't say this is my understanding. Don't say this is my world will, whatever. As to the extent you become transparent, they will go through you. You will benefit from them. And how much you benefit depends on how much transparent you become. How much reward or sawab you get depends on how much transparent you become. Again, with the author's words, the nature of reward reflected in the mirrors of the ocean-like spirits of Moses and Aaron. Reward is being reflected in you. Sawab is being reflected in you because it's from word of light, author says. So here, I guess, author talks about how we interact with this reward, what it means for us. And he says it's not something that is written somewhere with you not having any access to it. It's something which reflects in you. You experience it from the first hand because it opens a treasury of happiness for you. You study something, you try to understand something, you ask for understanding, and then a single word reminds you something and you say, oh my God, like I've been studying this for 2 weeks, and this single word that you mentioned, Brother Abdul Rahman, it gave me the answer that I was looking for. So I get my sawab, I get my reward. Jazakallah.
Thank you for that. It's a very, it also does bring into the previous discussions we had about the droplet and the atom, about how the atom, the thing that made it so great or so valuable to be an atom is to be transparent, to not attribute things to yourself, to not block the light from passing through you. It's about realizing your neediness, realizing that he's the one creating you, and in this transparency, in this realizing your truth and like your location, like in reality, then you are able to so clearly, like the light just passes through you, or it becomes very clear to you. Things become very clear to you, and as you're saying here, when you reach such a state, and actually Nursi is saying this, he's saying, when you reach such a state, it could be that, sorry, I need to close something. When you reach such a state, it could be that, you know, one word could open up, could be as beneficial as the Quran for you, or it could be like 60 years of service, like just one word, because now you look at it with transparency, because you're like the atom when you're looking at it, as opposed to like a droplet or like a flower, which somehow are opaque and they block the light. They're not as clear, but because, let's say, in like your one night, you are somehow in one instance, like 1 second, 1 minute, you're able to reach such a transparency, something can be so beneficial for you that it otherwise wasn't beneficial, because you weren't able to encompass, let's say, the light, and like let's say it says how, you know, I mean, I really love this example where he says like how a tiny little fragment of glass can encompass all the heavens and the stars, like just a tiny fragment of glass. I mean, it's a transparent glass. It lets light through it, and because of this, like all the heavens, like all the stars in the sky, the lights of them can go through this glass. It can be something so beneficial. It's not about how big the glass is, but rather the fact that it's transparent. That's important. And transparency, again, it means realizing your neediness and realizing your truth and realizing that, you know, you shouldn't be attributing things to yourself, and like thinking you are the one that is doing things, that you are the one that needs to like be powerful, be intelligent, to figure things out, that you are actually a needy one that is in need of guidance, that is being given things, being sustained. So thank you for that reminder. In some ways, I think you almost summarized the ending of it. We didn't go into the story. So maybe I can ask with people, okay, before I give the mic to you, would you like to, people like to then continue through the story and just read to the end, or would you like to then maybe move on to like the conclusion? I would like to maybe make a poll or something after. Brother Rikan, go ahead.
So I'm okay with any choice you end up with about reading. Other than that, so I just I don't know, understanding occurred to me. I might be misreading it, but so one thing I enjoy right now is he talks about at the very beginning, he talks about encouragement, arousing eagerness, right? The beginning of the paragraph that we read here, in order to encourage and restrain. So he says these kind of narrations is for encouragement. So it says whoever reads the following phrases is given the reward of Moses and Aaron. And what we require to read is all praise to be God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth. It goes like that. And then when he explained it, he says, yes, you will benefit from it, or you will get reward. And getting reward is relate to the benefit you get from this. So such a interpretation of reward, actually, like this interpretation itself opens a huge treasury in front of you, because it says, okay, so here are the phrases: all praise to be God, sustainer of the heavens and the sustainer of the earth. You can benefit from this phrase as much as Moses and Aaron benefited from it. So when I hear such a thing, I ask the question, benefiting from this phrase? What do you mean? How can I benefit from this phrase? And then I start thinking, I start reflecting upon it. I start asking. I say, oh my God, I want to be, oh my Lord, oh my sustainer, I want to be, benefit from it. I wanted to open a treasure in front of me. I want it, I need it. Oh my sustainer, I need the treasure. And even asking these questions, even such invocations, connects to the phrase I read, all praise to be God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth. I need something, I'm asking to my sustainer. And phrase it says, he's the sustainer of heavens and the earth. Everything I need, everything I will to get is, he's the sustainer. So anyway, I'm starting a journey in which I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to implement, I'm trying to travel through these phrases. All praise to be God, sustainer of the heavens and sustainer of the earth. Why? Because author explained me the reward is about how you benefit from it. And because of this, I start asking that, oh, that means I can benefit from this phrase. How can I benefit from this phrase? Even such an understanding, realizing that I can benefit, it can open a treasure in front of me. This understanding itself opens a treasure in front of me. So alhamdulillah, like such an interpretation of the author itself is an encouragement to benefit from this hadith. Hadith is encouragement for benefiting from phrases, and such an interpretation of the hadith is another encouragement to benefit from this hadith. Alhamdulillah, I'm really thankful to author, and of course all praise to be God.
Thank you for that. There's a lot of encouragement in questioning and seeking and finding. Yeah, it all starts from this idea of like needing more, this place where you're not satisfied with your current state. You want to seek for more, ask for more, make, let's say, dua for more. And there's an encouragement in such a hadith to seek for that, or like go through this journey of reading the verses, trying to reach such a level of, let's say, Moses or Musa and Harun. Thank you. Well, okay, I guess I'll put it to a vote. I will say, who would like to, okay, let me make this all official then. Since I can't really make a poll, I couldn't find such an option, but I'll just go off hands then. Who would like to continue reading till the end of the conclusion, or continue reading from the conclusion on? That's the first vote, and the second vote is just reading where we left off from the story, and then just reading as we normally do. So whoever would like to vote for the first option of skipping to the conclusion, please raise your hand. Okay, and then just we might have independent voters. So whoever would like to continue as we normally do, raise your hand. Wow, I think we are tied. Okay, in the interest of going as we normally do, let's just let me not be breaking the pattern. Inshallah, let's continue from the story. And plus, I think there are some sentences that I did run into, which does seem like interesting. And I think that we can dive into them deeper in the next few paragraphs. Inshallah, it will be beneficial for us. And maybe one sentence where previously I was ignoring it, or I didn't really see too much in it, might lead to 60 years of service, or might be extremely beneficial, as long as we have a consciousness of being transparent. Inshallah. So the story, for example, there is a primitive, uncouth man. Uncouth means lacking sophistication, who has never seen the king and does not know the majesty of his rule. He imagines a lord in a village, and with his limited ideas, thinks of the king as a more exalted version of the Lord. Long ago, with us even, there was a simple-minded tribe who used to say, "Our Lord knows what the Sultan does as he cooks his bulgur soup on his stove in a saucepan." That is to say, they imagined the Sultan in such a narrow situation and so common a form that he cooked his own wheat soup. They supposed him to have the majesty of a captain. Now, if someone was to say to one of that tribe, "If you do this work for me today, I'll give you as much majesty as you think the Sultan has, and give you a rank as high as a captain," to say that is right, because of the majesty of kingship. What enters the narrow bounds of his ideas is only the majesty of a captain. So there is this tribe where, let's say, someone who hasn't maybe gone or traveled much or seen more of the world or understands, or just, he's stuck in his own small, like living under a rock type of thing, to say, not in a negative sense, but that's just the lifestyle he has. For him, this idea of the Sultan, in his imagination, he thinks that his tribe leader lives in a way that's similar to the Sultan. Like the Sultan is, let's say, leading over a country or much larger land, while his tribe leader is leading over something much smaller. And he somehow, from his imagination, he thinks that my tribe leader lives in a similar fashion or close to what the Sultan lives. And then if you went up to this person and said him, "I will give you the majesty or the grandeur of a Sultan," and the paragraph doesn't really go into this, but I'm guessing, like, if you said, "I will give you that much," and let's say you only had the ability to give as much as a tribe leader, or like you could only give him, let's say, bulgur so that he can cook his own soup, for him, this is what his tribe leader does. If you said, "I will give you as much majesty as a Sultan," it would be a correct statement, because in his mind, a Sultan is only one that still cooks his own soup. So you saying such a thing would not be contrary to the truth for him. So that's what the story is. And then Nursin, then I think we'll go into an explanation of this. And feel free to always raise your hand. Thus, with our worldly views and narrow minds, we cannot think as much as that primitive man of the true rewards which look to the hereafter. So we are the primitive man. We are the ones that are living under a rock, that are clueless. We are the true primitive man who cannot think as much of the true rewards which look to the hereafter. It is not the equivalent of the true rewards of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, for according to the rule of similes and comparisons, the unknown is compared to the known. So our reading, he's saying, our reading is not equivalent to the true reward of Moses and Aaron. And then he says, for according to the rule of similes and comparisons, the unknown is compared to the known. So what the true reward of Moses and Aaron is unknown, but we use it as like a comparison or a simile to say that we could reach that level by reading this passage, let's say. And then he continues, the true reward, which is unknown for an invocation of one of God's believing servants, is compared with the rewards that we know and surmise. Truth is again, a simile made based on comparing the unknown to the known. Moreover, the surface of the sea and the heart of a droplet are equal when it comes to holding the complete reflection of the sun. The difference is only in quality. So he went from this talking about how there are comparisons made from the unknown, comparisons made with the unknown and the known, like the true reward of Moses and Aaron is unknown, but we make a comparison to it like based on like saying we can reach it. Then he jumps. It seems like a jump to me. If anyone would like to clarify that. Then he starts talking about. He says moreover, but I'm saying I'm thinking he's like adding on to in addition to this, the surface of the sea and the heart of a droplet are equal. So there's he made a comparison here that I couldn't catch. Brother Yusuf, if you have a comment about that or something else, please go ahead.
Here, what attracted my attention is he is talking he uses three words. Says quality, quantity, and nature of things. So he says the nature of reward is the same, quantity is the same, but quality is the thing that differs. So this is interesting, and I'm trying to make it practical, comparable to something that I can make sense of. So Since throughout our discussions, we have been discussing about belief, investigative belief, strength of belief, it now makes me more sense to apply the same thing that we are applying over there, because the same author is talking about degrees of belief or strength of belief. And he is talking about, first he talks about some imitative belief, and then he says imitative belief is generally so weak that it might get shattered with a small doubt. But then he says there is this belief based on knowledge. I'm not sure if this is a proper translation, but certainty of knowledge. Yeah, I guess this is how it is. Belief through certainty of knowledge, belief through certainty of as if seeing, and belief through certainty of, I don't know, haqqal yaqeen, how it is translated, if anybody can help me with that. But while he is going through these levels of belief, for instance, because when we were talking about the merits of reward, we were generally talking about it as if establishing a connection with the absolute. So if we go with like dictionary definition of that, so once you do it, that's it, end of the story. Like it should be either 1 or 0. What sort of a difference of quality can we talk about being connected to the absolute, right? But when I turn back to my practical life, I do see differences of quality. So yes, after a discussion, I arrived to the conclusion that there must exist an absolutely merciful one. Or maybe when I see my daughter, I say, yeah, there must exist an absolutely beautiful one, absolutely, let's say, cute one, or source of cuteness. It must exist. It's not because of this girl here. But the quality of my conclusion becomes more measurable to me once I, let's say, get challenged with some doubts or some questions, which tells me, oh, that much of it I was able to admit. Now, the word admit, the reason I'm using the word admit is when he was talking about the difference between Moses and Aaron versus me, he said, he gave the example of surface of a sea and surface of a water droplet. And he says, it is the same sun that they receive. So the nature of what they receive is the same. And in terms of quantity, it is a single sun that they receive, but the amount that they benefit differs. So he calls the word capacity, I guess, in here, because the surface of the sea is larger, it can absorb, or it can, in the original language, he uses the word kabiliyet, which is coming from the Arabic word qabul, like accepting. So the surface of the sea is able to accept more. So this part is interesting, because as we have been, the topic is getting expanded a little bit, but I will backtrack you to the second branch, where we were talking about this droplet and the atom. So, and also the flower. So there was this, again, metaphor of reflecting something or rejecting something. So in here, the thing that becomes, in the metaphorically speaking, transparent is accepting everything. It's actually, it's allowing light to pass through. It's not rejecting. And what I mean by that is, this is our reality in this existence. Things are being given to us. Either I admit that it is being given to me, which means I am accepting the reality. Practically speaking, this very philosophically sounding sentence, I can either admit that I am being given strength, I am being given life, or I can reject this reality and claim that I am lively, as if life is from me, or I am strong, as if it is from me. Likewise, when I utter this word, this supplication over here, so meanings or the connection between me and my creator is going to be established, is going to be given to me. If I admit this, then the strength is getting stronger. Otherwise, I will say, no, I am trying to get closer to my creator, rather than realizing that, no, he is the one that establishes any sort of connection, any sort of nearness that I sense. It is because of him manifesting on me, not me getting closer to him. So to the extent that I realize these differences is what the quality in here means. And again, it sounds a little bit too abstract, practically speaking. So as I go through life events, so the things that make me sure, makes me secure that I am in safe hands. There is someone who is watching over me in the sense that taking care of me 24/7. These are the things that are apparently, or to the extent that I can relate with, the merits of those good deeds. This is what I am in need of. I want to be under the constant gaze of my maker. I don't want to be forgotten. I don't want to be alone. So if those supplication over here, for example, the supplication of Moses and Aaron, to the extent that I start sensing such presence of my maker, plus I admit that even that sensing of presence is from him, I just accept my reality. I just accept what is going on, rather than saying that, no, I understood this supplication. This is what I understood from this supplication. Because if I say such a thing, then as if I am starting to attribute some sort of merit to myself. But it's very beautiful language. Merit is being given to me. It's very beautiful. Like when you do prayer, merit is being given to me. It's not like I am earning some good merit, or let's do this action and let's earn some good merit. It's not that it's something that I earn rightfully, but rather it is being given to me. So what sort of a thing it is being given to me? And again, just to underline again, the author is here talking about the quality, not the quantity. He says the quality is the same. The quantity is the same. Quantity of what Aaron takes, Moses and Aaron takes, and what you take is the same. The quality is what differs. So what is it, the quality? Because in general, we get used to thinking about numbers, quality in the quantity in this sense. But the author says, no, what matters in here is quality. So what is quality of such a merit? To the extent that I can now relate with is that I am the recipient and the creator is the giver of anything that I receive. Whatever I sense that I am receiving, the feeling of nearness of my maker, the feeling of presence of my maker, these are very valuable realizations, but it's not that I realize that he is near to me. This is a wrong sentence. Actually I am lying. But it should be like I am being given the realization of his nearness. So to the extent that I truly sense at the second way, or I admit at the second way, because there's a free will being used over there, then this is, I guess, the difference of quality. And tying it back to where I started, I jumped a lot, sorry. You might have got lost by now, or maybe 5 minutes ago. But as there is levels of belief, and since we have discussed this a lot, I think this very same thing applies to here in terms of quality of merits of good deeds. So good deeds should not be thought separately from belief matters, because the conviction, like iman and amal, needs to be thought hand in hand. It should not be separated as if state and church. Like it's not there shouldn't be a secular separation between actions and the convictions. So the two needs to be hand in hand. If you like, they are the opposite sides of the same coin. So this is why I guess whatever we sense in one is directly applicable to the other. Sorry for the long talk.
Thank you for your comment. Maybe quickly summarize what I understood, or just some points I took notes about. I like how you tied it up at the end about belief and the action, and the way I'm understanding what you're saying is how merit, this thing we're talking about, merit, it is something that increases based on how I realize the truth. Like if I realize reality, like it's about the quality of being able to accept things as being given to me rather than thinking that I am earning them. When I have this acceptance of things, like this belief, and you need belief to be able to accept things like this. And once I have the acceptance of this, then the merits, or the actions I do, I am then given merits. So like I have belief, and then I do like an action, like a salih, amal salih, and then this amal salih only is as valuable as my belief is, as my idea, because I'm only given as much as I realize that I am a recipient. So they're very interwoven with each other. And before I give the mic off to Atik, I want to also say I enjoyed the comparison between the sea and the droplet. Like the difference is, like in some sense, the sea and the droplet, they're the same distance from the sun. They're both equally distant from the sun, but the sea is just much more open to accepting the sun's light. It is much more accepting of, let's say, the truth. It is much more realizing that it is a recipient, while the droplet is more enclosed, it's smaller. And Brother Atik, can you might make your comment, please?
Yeah. I get a little confused when I read this paragraph when it refers to quality. It might be on part of the translator, or might be because of the author's original words, but I feel like I understand it better if I read it as one's ability to accept quality, rather than just the quality given to an individual is different depending on the individual. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. But it's like the idea I'm talking about is the quality of the sunlight, you know, the light, let's say the light of guidance is not different in the sense that you have two people and one is, you know, just without any barriers to viewing the sun, and another person is wearing sunglasses. In that sense, the quality and quantity of sunlight is the same, but the person with sunglasses, his ability to accept the sunlight to accept the quality of the light is hampered by him wearing sunglasses. So again, this is probably just a technical issue, but it does help me understand it better.
Yeah, actually, Brother Yusuf, go ahead.
Actually, this is a very beautiful point. Yes, it shouldn't be understood as if, yeah, I am like doomed to get a low reward or benefit less because I am born as Yusuf and my name is not Aaron. Like it shouldn't be taken as capacity in the sense that hardwired capacity sort of a thing, but rather, again, as qabiliyet, the word is capacity, but it is related to coming from the word qabul, like accepting. So with what defines my capacity is my free will. So if I do not accept as, and this is purely based on my free choice, if I choose to reject or deny or not accept, and I do that. So it's not like, oh, I'm a believer, I definitely, no, this is not the case. It's not binary, it's not 0 or 1. A lot of things out there I attribute to myself, which means I am rejecting the fact that I am being given. When I say I am smart, actually I am denying the fact that I am being given intellect. But if I say that I am being given intellect, this is accepting the reality. But if I say the reverse, it means no, I am rejecting this reality and coming up with a lie, an alternative, imaginary truth, which is not true, saying that no, it belongs to me. So this is why I guess in here, it's more about accepting, as Atik was beautifully saying.
Yeah, thank you both for your comments. Awesome. Or Atik says, "Innama a'malu binniyat." Yes, if you'd like to give us a translation of that as well. So I think it roughly means that the action is judged based on the intention or something similar to that. And I don't know which part you couldn't hear. If you would like to elaborate on that, Atik, in the verse, you could. All right, then we could continue then. I think we read the first couple sentences. Let's just start from the beginning of the paragraph. Thus, with our worldly views and narrow minds, we cannot think as much as that primitive man of the true rewards which look to the hereafter. It is not the equivalent of the true rewards of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, for according to the rule of similes and comparisons, the unknown is compared to the known. The true reward, which is unknown, or an indication of one of God's believing servants, is compared with the rewards that we know and surmise. Moreover, the surface of the sea and the heart of a droplet are equal when it comes to holding the complete reflection of the sun. The difference is only in quality. The nature of the reward reflected in the mirrors of the ocean-like spirits of Moses and Aaron, peace be upon them, is exactly the same in nature as the reward that a believing servant who is like a droplet receives from a Quranic verse. They are the same in nature and quantity, while their quality is dependent on capacity. Also, there's a comment, is ability in English coming from Qadiyat in Arabic? Just realize the similarity in their pronunciation and spelling. Potentially, I will say sure. Also, it sometimes happens that a single word, a single glorification, opens a treasury of happiness. A treasury of happiness that was not open with 60 years of service. That is to say, it sometimes happens that a single verse may be as beneficial as the Quran. So he makes, I want to stop here and like just go into these two sentences. He makes like a comparison here. He says that a single word, a single glorification could open a treasury of happiness. That 60 years of trying to get there, 60 years of effort, let's say, or 60 years of living, you weren't able to reach it, but just one word, you were able to reach that treasury of happiness. Or let's say, going off the previous paragraph, you were able to finally accept that treasury, that merit, and have it reflected in you, finally, through a single word. And then the interesting part here is like that is to say it sometimes happens that a single verse may be as beneficial as the Quran. So he's making this comparison that the Quran being beneficial is almost like he's explaining it as it's a treasury of happiness. Yeah, I thought it was just an interesting remark to make. Yes, Atik, go ahead.
Yeah, if I might interpret this sentence in light of what we've been discussing, I would say that it's not saying that the value of the Quran is less than the value of a verse. I mean, of course, because the Quran is made up of a multitude of verses, but at this one instance of our life, for some reason, we find ourselves possessing a larger ability to absorb the blessing from this one verse that we have not received through 60 years of service. So for some reason, you know, we were closed off for 60 years. And then when this one verse happened, we were open to it and received more blessings or more connection with God through that one verse than we had through our past life.
Yeah, I think that is very true. That's a good explanation. Like, just as one word can open a treasure of happiness you weren't able to reach in 60 years, one verse could be as beneficial. Like, you could have been reading the Quran your whole life, and then once you just read one verse with like the correct capacity of accepting it, and I guess, you know, we're being sort of maybe vague here in what it means, like accepting it. We went more into detail on that, and when we were speaking about the atom in the previous branch, where like the atom is transparent. You know, the atom, you know, there's an atom drop on a flower, and we're talking about the atom being transparent as opposed to the other two being meaty, and that's like the part about the atom that is like the most valuable characteristic of the atom is the neediness. That atom feels the understanding, the consciousness of its neediness. And then when you have this consciousness like the atom and you read a single verse, it might be more beneficial to you than all the times you've read the Quran previously in your life. Yeah. Continuing on. Yes, Brother Mohammed, say, go ahead.
Actually, this, I think it tells me, actually, any verse should be equal to the whole Quran in terms of its function. That's the moment that I can say only that, okay, this speech really works for me. Because, I mean, the way I understood it is that, or as Yusuf was emphasizing, the way it is reflected, it is being reflected on my world is that when a verse or when any words like Allahu Akbar, if it brings the fact, if it explains the existence for me in that moment, it means it is the Quran for me. It's the speech of my Creator for me. If it explains to me that big or small, minute or micro or macro, nothing is, everything shares the same reality, that we all need to be made, and everything is infinitely needy, and the maker cannot be located in the universe. And through this conviction, I am being revealed that the maker has to be has to be there. The maker has to exist, and in order for me to exist right now, so it means I am being made right now through one word. Let's say Allahu Akbar. If it brings this message to me in this moment, it means it is Quran for me, like equivalent of the Quran, because it explains the universe to me right now. That's how I understood it.
Yeah, thank you for your understanding. There's really a lot of potential in every action, verse, thing that we read. The understanding we can get from it, yeah, it could be equal to the whole Quran, as you said. And which is actually what it must mean in the ninth principle we were studying, where one letter could have so much benefits, or one surah can be worth 10 times the Quran. That's the type of meaning that must have. So I will continue on. Also, the divine effulgence which God's noble messenger, peace be upon him, who manifested the greatest name, received from a single verse, may have been as much as all the effulgence one of the other prophets received. Also, the divine effulgence which God's noble messenger, peace be upon him, who manifested the greatest name, received from a single verse, may have been as much as all the effulgence one of the other prophets received. am I not understanding this sentence correctly? He's saying that the effulgence the messenger received is equal to the effulgence another messenger, a prophet received. Is this a new hand, Brother Muhammad Said, or is that the old one? Yes, Brother Rika.
So the way I understand the sentence is that because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was. Let me see the words he used. I'm also looking at the original. Also, the divine effulgence, which God's noble messenger, who manifested the greatest name, received from a single verse, may have been as much as all the effulgence one of the other prophets received. So, the effulgence that he received through only single verse could be equal to the total effulgence of any other prophets. So this is what sentence says, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I was missing that. The one verse could be as much as what another prophet could ever see in the other prophet's lifetime. Yes, Ati, go ahead.
I think the idea is that the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being the greatest, the greatest manifestation of the greatest name or something like that, the greatest manifestation of divine presence, let's say, in the world, across time, because he was that, or he is that, in that sense, his capacity to absorb divine guidance is greater than any other being, including other prophets, created being, including other prophets, so that makes it possible for him to possibly possess more effulgence than other prophets from a single verse or something like that. Essentially, his capacity is greater than any other created being.
Right. And so the reason that this is true, this might be true, that he could have received as much effulgence as another prophet did in a lifetime just from a single verse. Like, the reason this is Nursi saying this might be true is because he also defines the prophet. He says, who manifested the greatest name. So it is because the prophet manifested the greatest name, and it goes into what is the greatest name, and the greatest name being the name of God, or a quality of God, or a quality of his creator. And the one who manifests the greatest name, and we're saying that manifestation is actually just you reflecting the quality that is being given to you. So like just like the sea reflects the sun's light, you're only reflecting things. So the prophet is manifesting the greatest name, then he must be reflecting the greatest name of his creator. And because he is so, let's say, reflective in this sense, he's so open in this sense, then such a statement can be made. Brother Muhammad Said, go ahead.
I think the emphasis on the verse, or there's a word, he says that the divine effulgence which God's noble messenger, peace be upon him, who manifested the greatest name, received from a single verse. I took that the emphasis on here for me, that the message, the education in the speech is so powerful that the messenger of God was given the ability to be trained with that message. And I don't have that person with me, but I have the message. So I think directly it is telling me that the verses have such a, or the author, at least at this moment, claims that the verses of the Quran are carrying such effulgences, or I don't know if it is the right word to be used now, but it is designed in a way that a person can educate, can train himself like Muhammad alayhi salam did. I think the emphasis on the verse, that's how I got it at this moment.
Yeah, I actually like that emphasis as well, because it's also an encouragement, as we were talking previously in this principle. Like there's like these things are said like for encouragement, and there's he's saying that like the message is so great that, or he's like encouraging you, saying that, you know, the prophet, like our messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, like from a single verse he could have received so much effulgence that it could be more than another prophet did in his lifetime. It's a very, and this is like encouraging me, saying that the message is so great, there's so much to be gained from a single verse, that if you approached it correctly, and if like try to somehow follow the prophet and learn from the prophet, and also approach the verse in a similar way, you could gain this much. There's like an encouraging statement for me to say that every verse could be very helpful, very beneficial for you. It could be a treasury of happiness for you. Actually, this was one of the sentences I remember reading, and I did want to talk about, so I didn't want to skip it as well. So I'm happy that we were able to go into it. It was beneficial for me. We're almost out of time, but I'll try to finish this paragraph and maybe the conclusion. Oh, 9:40 is actually the correct time, so we have 2 more minutes. I will continue. And it would not be contrary to the truth if it is said that a believer who through the legacy of prophethood manifests the shadow of the greatest name receives, in accordance with his own capacity and in regard to quantity, a reward as great as a prophet's effulgence. Yeah, so this is what has been said, what Muhammad Sayyid was saying, and this idea that the message itself is like the emphasis is there on the message itself, and it's like an encouragement to say that one who can like manifest the shadow of the greatest name, so even get somehow close to what the prophet was able to manifest with the greatest name, or what he was able to reflect or be conscious of. If a believer who follows the legacy of prophethood, who tries to learn from prophethood, if he's able to manifest a shadow of this greatest name, then he might also be able to receive a reward as great as a prophet's effulgence. Brother Yusuf says, quantity-wise though. So that, would you like to say something?
Like he was making a distinction between quality and quantity since the beginning. And he still carries this on up to here. And he says, still, practically, it is possible, and it's not going to be wrong to say that by following the path of the messenger, you can get the same quantity of effulgence, reward from a verse as much of as another messenger, another prophet. But still, quality-wise, things might be different. Quality is a different issue. In terms of quantity, he again mentioned it. And since the very beginning, this is what was being spoken, right? For the Aaron and Moses. So in terms of quantity, he said it is the same quantity that Moses and Aaron is going to take. So the main gist was the difference was in quality. So in terms of quality, what I can do is, I guess, the difference. So just to make sure the main emphasis is not lost. So still it is possible in terms of having the access to what is out there. This is what I'm understanding from quantity. But in terms of quality, to what extent you are going to benefit from it is contingent upon how you utilize your free will. And in here, he is not saying that with your free will, with the quality that you are going to get it's not being mentioned in here. correct me if I'm wrong.
So you're saying that it's not possible to reach the effulgence of other prophets in quality?
So I think this is because when we say prophets, so it's a, to the best of my understanding, it looks like it's a different way of connection. So if you like, it's, I mean, as much as I understand, it looks like it's a different category that I can conclude that must exist such a way of relationship. But to what extent I can relate with it, it's a different story. I mean, it's not exactly the scope of discussion today, but I don't know to what extent we can talk about it, and if anybody wants to add anything on that.
I will go with H. Beza first.
H. Beza, apparently. So I was gonna say it's nothing new, but to Brother Yusuf's comment and what was said earlier about like if depending on how I define prophecy or prophet, if I define it as one who is able to live with the message or best be able to internalize the message or live with the consciousness of their reality, then by definition, if they are the best, then I can never like that I can never reach that bar, if you will, like by definition, if that were the best, and I'm always in a state of continuously trying to improve myself. So I mean, you know, I guess for myself, as I was listening to it, trying not to externalize this and be like, oh yeah, you know, these were people who were so holy that they were able to get to a certain level that I'm never able to. But if I define them as people who were able to best utilize or manifest or internalize, be conscious of their reality, then it makes more sense to say, okay, yeah, they're the role model, they're what I strive to be, and by definition, in a way, I cannot necessarily reach that point, but that does not mean that like it shouldn't put me in a state of hopelessness or despair, because that's not the point. That it's a way for me to check myself, I guess. H. Beza, Beza out.
Thank you, H. Beza. So Brother Rikan had his hand up. I will give the mic to him. But I want to make a comment. I did not understand it as both of you are understanding it. Because here it says that if he manifests the shadow of the greatest name, receives in accordance with his own capacity, so there's still capacity, which he was, making like akin to, he uses the word capacity for quality, with his own capacity and in regard to quantity. So essentially saying quality and quantity, a reward as great as a prophet's effulgence. And if a reward is, we're talking about greatness of a reward. If I can't reach, if it's only in quantity, like if we're only talking about the fact that yes, I can witness that a creator exists, and yes, the prophet can witness that a creator exists, then how can in quantity, let's say this is like the same 1 and 1, but the reward of a prophet, the rewards are completely different. Like there's much more degrees than just saying yes, a creator exists. So I did not understand the sentence as you all were saying. Brother Peter, please go ahead.
So the way I understand all these, when he says in terms of nature and quantity, it's same in the previous paragraphs. I'm just trying to find the exact place, but it doesn't matter. He says when he talks about the reflections in the ocean, in terms of the nature and the quantity, it's the same, but the quality depends on the ability, the capacity. So the way I understand is that like because we said all this reward, all these merits is something given to you, and to the extent you become transparent, you receive more because you let more light pass through you. So within such a understanding, the way I guess we can take is that there's a light. In terms of the nature, it's same for everyone. It's there. It's just one light. Quantity-wise, that's what I understand. Like it's from the same source, the same light. But to the extent you become transparent, you let more or less light pass through you. It's not that some people receiving more light, some others receiving less light. It's the same sun, but how much you let, the quality is different. So in that regard, so we say, for instance, in science, sometimes, people ask questions and try to define things, whether it is possible, whether it's not possible. There's this phrase we say, it's an empirical question, meaning like I wouldn't know the answer before running the experiments or before start the analysis. I guess these kind of things also should be taken, at least personally speaking, like from our own world, within our own understanding. Is it possible to reach to such a level or not? For you, it's a matter of, it's an empirical question. Like, to the extent you become transparent, you become more, you receive more light. Can you become that much transparent? It depends on how you understand the Prophet. So if your understanding of the Prophet is, he was the man who just, look at the nature and make some interpretations, and they were really good interpretations, then you could do the same, of course, just try. But if you understand Prophet in another way, your answer would be different. So I guess rather than, coming up like the conclusions and saying that it is possible, it is not possible, I guess more important, at least to me, is realizing that it's the same source of light, it's the same light for every creature, but I am not that transparent. If I'm willing to become more transparent, just become more transparent. Like, do not get lost in theoretical discussions of whether it is possible, whether it's another kind of creature, just try to be more transparent. How much transparent you can get, it's something that you can answer. And it all depends on how you understand Prophet. So yeah, this is what I want to say.
Yeah, thank you. It's always a good reminder to remember that we need to think about ourselves, and regardless that it's all in our capacities, and it's all like up to us, really. I guess there's really not too much benefit in thinking whether we could reach such a state or not, when probably we're not even close to even such a state. So like I don't know, Brother Yusuf, go ahead.
It's interesting that he started mentioning this part as if out of nowhere, out of the blue. He started talking about the messenger, as if now comparing messengers, then talked about me comparing me to messengers. It's of course relevant because it started with comparing us to Moses and Aaron. But then when we will come maybe next week to the conclusion, in the conclusion, he is going to, as if remind me of saying that before you try to criticize the messenger, because when we hear such a narration, we can say, well, come on, if this is what that guy is saying, like as if now I start even referring to him as a guy, then it doesn't make any sense, right? So he says, just know who you are, where you are, and you better speak accordingly. So this is why I guess, and we can discuss this in depth next week, but these, like in here, when he says where the messenger is and where I am, and I agree with Brother Birkan, I should be focusing on what I am, where I am, in terms of accepting or rejecting. Yeah, potentially I am given this same capacity or same free choice, but I should also know, as in the example, where I am, and as if I am competing, as if it's a competition, I am competing with the messenger. And just one reason that I wanted to highlight this part is Quran reminds us a lot about how people were responding to their messengers by saying that, aren't you just a man like us? And then they denied their messengers as such. Of course, this is not the tone in this discussion, but, and also like as H. Peza was saying, like making the messenger as so holy, so unreachable and unrelatable, this is another extreme. But what does messenger mean for me, and how am I going to benefit from that messenger, but not make him like, I don't know, just another human or just another wise man. So where am I going to locate myself? Otherwise, the part that he is going to warn us in the conclusion might get lost. It's becoming blurry. So this is why I guess there are two endpoints, two extremes in here. So where are we going to locate ourselves?
Brother Brikan, go ahead, but I'd like to also close soon too, because we're over time. So you will be the last.
Oh, I just wanted to highlight the one word Yusuf just used. I liked it, if he allows me, is competing with the Prophet. I guess this is really important, because like what I just said shouldn't be understood as, yes, we are all same, I can be as good as him or somebody else. I think even having such an attitude, like forgetting about yourself, just competing with the others or just talking about the others, it already means that I am not that much transparent. So this journey of transparency, I guess, starts with realizing that I am nothing. And when you are nothing, there is nothing to compete. So another phrase from, again, science, that, can I be more, can I be as, what is pious as a prophet, or can I get as much as reward as a prophet? This question is an ill-posed question. Like, if I'm asking such a question, it already means that I'm not in the journey. It already means that I'm not receiving any reward. So yes, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't become a competition. We shouldn't be dealing with such questions that not taking us anywhere anyway.
Okay then. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين.